Rome, and Hong Kong. But my luggage has been to all three. The man in the nervous father in the waiting room said to a man next to him, he says, he got all excited because the baby was born, and the new father said to the man next to him, here, have a cigar. And the man next to him says, oh, congratulations. Is it a boy or a girl? And the new father says, I don't know one cigar from another.
The sanctuary. God.
Calvin.
The charges of the church against
John Wesley came later.
were exactly those that could be brought against Brother Lawrence.
And they all had charges that could have been brought against Brother Lawrence. But he made it.
Did the new Pope say that the Catholic Church should get down on its knees and ask forgiveness?
This is God Tape 17, and this is Side B.
We have repented, and we keep up with it every day. And the kingdom of heaven is upon us. And we spread the happiness.
That goes into Jesus the Christ, and that's John the Baptist. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. What happens when ducks fly upside down? They quack up. How are you today, folks? We're talking about Brother Lawrence and his ability to practice the presence of God, and what a happy person he was. And we're reading from a book that Sheldon Cheney wrote in 1945, and it was published by Alfred Knopf, Men Who Walk with God. And you and I are walking with happiness, and we would like to help other people walk with happiness. And the audio cassette, something is missing. It doesn't finish with Brother Lawrence, and it jumps to Jesus the Christ, and that's our third leader. So I had to get out the pages and read them to you. And this is page 302. A part of his mercy and a means for our salvation, they find in it sweetness and consolation. We find in happiness sweetness and consolation. Often, God is nearer to us in sickness than in health. Rely then upon no other physician. Was Mary Baker Eddy. As the last months passed by, Brother Lawrence's mind becomes even clearer as regards faith, and he feels himself more completely in the presence of God. Let's do that one again. Boy, that is nice. God's presence. As a whole, life still found him jubilant. I do not know how God will use me, but I am continuously happy. All the world knows distress and pain, but I, undeserving, am filled with joy. So great, I can hardly contain it. And you shouldn't contain it. You should give it out. You should spread it all around. Now it's up to February. And Brother Lawrence writes to the Mother Superior of the convent, He is in us. Seek him in no other place. That's what Buddha kept saying. Solitude and meditation. That was what Jesus the Christ did. He is in us. Seek him in no other place. On the second day following, this was in February, he took to his bed for the last time. The final sacraments of the church were given him. And to a brother who was watching at the bedside, who asked him what was in his mind, he answered, This is Brother Lawrence. I am doing that which I shall be doing through eternity, thanking God, praising God, adoring God, offering him the love that fills my heart. Bring forth a royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. On February the 12th, 1691, painlessly and in peace, Brother Lawrence slipped away from his body. Perfect. Painlessly and in peace, Brother Lawrence slipped away from his body. Good for you, Sheldon Cheney. To enter into a new phase of a long established companionship. That is so well done. On February 12th, 1691, painlessly and in peace, Brother Lawrence slipped away from his body to enter into a new phase of companionship. Well, they called his writings the practice of the presence of God. The practice of the presence of God. Are you in the presence of God this very moment? Are you? Oh, yes, you are. Are you aware of it? The best rule for a holy life. Simplify a philosophy of life until it is contained in hardly more than a single injunction. Miraculously apt and simple speech. And Brother Lawrence certainly had it. But you can't say it better than that. The practice of the presence of God. The simple practice of the presence of God. And we say, we see God as happiness. That we can understand. God is so big and vast, we can't understand God in vastness of time and vastness of space. But we can understand happiness. So we're in the presence of happiness. Under this blue dome. On the last day of October. All Saints' Eve. Tomorrow is All Saints' Day. Black and orange. Brother Lawrence repeated his central injunction tirelessly. And what is it, folks? What? What'd you say? Right. The simple practice of the presence of God. We're on page 303 now, almost to the very end. People invent means and methods of coming to God's love. They learn rules and set up devices to remind them of that love. And it seems like a world of trouble to bring oneself into the consciousness of God's presence. Yet it might be so simple. Is it not quicker and easier just to do our common business wholly for the love of God? Is it just not simpler and easier to do our common business in the practice and in the presence of happiness? Then we put God's from the simplicity and purity of our hearts. Sold. I'll buy that. It would seem almost beyond belief if one could foresee the nature of the converse the soul holds with God at these times. He seems to delight so in this communion that upon the soul utterly committed to him, he bestows joys beyond number. And that's what we have, joys beyond number. And that's our game, isn't it? That's our practice. Happiness. That is our practice. Ice. As if life would not have it turn again to earthly things, he provides for the spirit abundantly. I'll say, God provides abundantly. Opulence. Thus, it gains a divine nourishment and unbounded felicity. That's it. Unbounded felicity. That we could say over and over again. Our happiness. Unbounded felicity. Of a sort beyond human thought or conception. And this with no more effort on its part than simple assent. Let's move on to page 307. With God is the perfect union. I'm wrong about that, folks. It's page 304. In this actual union, the soul is intensely alive. Its operations are quicker than fire. It is more resplendent than the unclouded sun. Our sun's a little clouded right now. It is a state of the soul if only words will serve me. Simple but profound, filling us with exultation and with serenity. Exultation and serenity, can they go together? What do you say? With a divine love that is both ardent and humble. Ardent. What a good word. Heat. Ardor. The word is lifted to a summit where it cannot but adore Him. Embracing Him with a tenderness that is inexpressible. Beautiful. And this man never had an education beyond reading and writing. Oh, wait a second. He did have an education way beyond that. He had an education from God. Yeah, that was a dumb thing to say, Glendora. In some of the maxims, especially Brother Lawrence's hand, except the presumably extemporary letters, there are passages descriptive of mystic union in the higher and purer sense, as approaching ecstatic abandonment of will to God's being. Some people work at that so hard. But throughout the writings, there is reiteration of the importance of that other phase of the way, the methodical schooling of oneself to establish a continual consciousness of God's presence. Not by continually conversing with God. That's not it at all. But by continually being happy and appreciative and thankful and grateful and excited about it. There is no other thing. That's the way it is. It is in one of the letters to a Mother Superior that he describes most fully the joys he has had from the continuous practice of the presence of God. Speaking of himself as the third person, explaining the experience as those of a member of our society, he adds, "It sometimes, in the press of outward affairs, he seems to lose a little of the sense of divine presence." How about that now? I know you know that. In the press of outward affairs, you lose the divine presence. You lose the happiness. What are we going to do about it, Brother Lawrence? Or absence himself, God presently makes felt in his soul a summons, and he answers. The experience so assures him that God is always at the center of his soul, that doubt of him is incontrovertible. Happiness is at the center of your soul. He may judge what content and tranquil joy are his when this treasure is continual. What happiness, what contentment are yours when you stay continually with happiness, with God? Brother Lawrence leaves no doubt that there were for him also occasional sudden illuminations, experiences of rapture and ecstasy. Want to hear that again? Brother Lawrence leaves no doubt that there were for him also occasional sudden illuminations, experiences of rapture and ecstasy. Have you had that? Have you experienced that? So now we're on page 305. Let's see how we're doing on time here. I'm sorry that television is run by the clock. Okay, that's a very nice place to leave it for the next week. Experiences of rapture and ecstasy. I am in rapture and I am in ecstasy, and I thank you. And I express my appreciation for you.